number of people. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and welcome to the Maryland Apprenticeship Connector's Community Connect webinar. We are excited that you have chosen to join us today, and we look forward to a great conversation, hopefully with a lot of input. I'll introduce myself first. I'm Edna Primrose, and I am in business development and partnerships with the Maryland Apprenticeship Connector, or MAC. Hopefully you have heard of MAC before and may not have known what the acronym stand for. We are basically connectors when it comes to apprenticeship. We are a consortium of 3 organizations, the Maryland Center for Construction Education and Innovation, Health Tech Alley, and Carroll County Technology and Industry Council. So we are in existence through an MSDE grant through the Maryland State Department of Education. And our role is to provide support to high schools by connecting them with employers and community-based organizations that can help support their apprenticeship program goals. As you all know, the blueprint has distinct goals for 45% of high school seniors to graduate with a credential and certification from a youth apprenticeship program. So our job is to help put those pieces together. I like to think of ourselves as an extension of the partners, where we can help to make critical connections, provide support, help to walk people through the process, and so forth. Let me take a moment to introduce you to Yvette Diamond, who will talk a little bit about her role with MAC.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us today. I am Yvette Diamond. I'm a workforce development strategist and facilitator, and we're excited to be talking to community-based organizations and about community-based organizations and how they can play a role in this apprenticeship ecosystem. Some of the community-based organizations are acting as educators, trainers to their communities. Some of them are doing support work to support community members. And then there's a variety of activities that are happening within nonprofits in between. And we really felt like it was important for those organizations to understand what apprenticeships are, what their community members have opportunities to take advantage of, what's happening in the school systems. And so however they feel their missions can fit within the needed programming around apprenticeships, we'd like to support that and encourage that. So today is about kind of thinking, what could CBOs do in relationship to the apprenticeship ecosystem, and also educating a little bit about apprenticeships in case anyone on here isn't already familiar with the details around apprenticeship.
Thank you, Yvette. And Stacy, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stacy Otis. I am also working with the Maryland Apprenticeship Connector, and I have been serving as the LEA liaison. So I've been specifically working with the school systems to provide them with the resources that they need to fulfill this grant and their blueprint goals. So I am doing a lot of the communication. If you've heard from anything coming from MAC, more than likely it's coming from me. So with that being said, if there are things that you need beyond this webinar, please feel free to reach out to me. I can put my contact information in the chat. And yes, I work alongside Edna and Yvette, who are awesome, and they're going to give you some awesome information today. So I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Yvette. Thank you, Stacy. While Yvette pulls up the slides, I'm going to ask everyone if you would be so kind as to put your name, organization, and email address in the chat so we have a good sense of who we have with us. All right. Before we begin, what we'd like to do is to take a poll and figure out who's in the room. So Stacy, do you want to go ahead and bring that up?
Yes, so you guys should be able to access the poll now. There's 2 questions.
So we want to know what is the type of organization you represent and what is the size of the community you serve? So if you could take a few moments to just fill that out, that'd be awesome. All right, I see some responses coming in. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. I see a nice representation between nonprofit and government entities working with communities. And we also have a nice range of the size of communities. So everything from a local community-based organization national. And I think that that's wonderful. I think it really speaks to the way that community organizations show up in their communities. Particularly today, we're going to be talking about the workforce space, and it'll be interesting to learn more about what you're doing and also talk about possibilities for you as well. Thank you so much. So Yvette, you can go ahead and pull up the slides. All right, next slide. Thank you. So as Yvette mentioned, we're really looking to have a conversation around community-based organizations' critical role in the apprenticeship ecosystem. We know that you all provide a wealth of programs and services to people in your communities, which includes youth. So some of you are engaged in addressing youth unemployment. Some of you provide career exploration, information and training to both youth and adults. Skills development is also a critical part of many community organizations. Promoting equity and inclusion is quite important. And I think that that is something that we certainly promote in terms of meeting the blueprint goals. We want to do our part to help to make sure that all students, all youth have an access to equitable programs throughout the state. And then, of course, supporting employers and schools. That's a big deal when it comes to community-based organizations. So when you think of community organizations, it can extend to folks who are working in the school system, health agencies, businesses, government, faith-based organizations, housing, and more. So we're really excited about the opportunity to talk about how your mission can align and does align with Blueprint goals. Next slide. So when you think about the social infrastructure, community organizations, as you all know very well, play an important role in our communities. You are the people on the ground, the people who have connections with folks in communities. You know who they are, you know what they need, and you're able to make connections and provide much needed resources in a number of ways. We talk about the facilities, whether it's physical locations where people can come to you for help. Many of you work in the virtual space, which is something that has evolved since the pandemic. You again provide critical services, and again, that includes training as well as preparatory classes as well. And then, of course, you have incredible networks. So each may not offer a specific program or service that a client or a person in a community may need. You often know where to go for help, and you often know where and how to direct them. Overall, the way I think about the social infrastructure is your support of the community's well-being and quality of life. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Yvette to talk about the workforce piece and how the apprenticeship model can be very valuable in terms of your ability to provide critical programs and services. Thank you.
Yvette, you're on mute.
Thanks, Edna. So as you likely have already heard, the Maryland Blueprint for Education has set a lofty goal of 45% of high school graduates completing an apprenticeship or industry recognized credential. And so there is a lot of activity and buzz across the state to help the schools identify employers who will implement apprenticeships, to identify students and help them understand the value of apprenticeships and how they can take advantage of them in the different types of jobs and industries that are accessible through apprenticeships, and trying to support both the employer and the employee is critical in order to successfully implement this high number of apprenticeships in such a short period of time. Only 62% of high schoolers go to college. So we really need to be thinking about the 38% who are not going to college, and perhaps give them opportunities that would eventually lead to that, but not necessarily. So the great thing about apprenticeships and the apprenticeship model is that all students could benefit from it. It can help those students who want to go to college, but want to start their networks earlier and get exposure and experience within their industries of choice. It may be great for those who are not interested in going to college, because it gives them the training and credentials that can get them a solid pathway to a strong future. And then it's also great for those who just aren't sure where they want to go, and would allow them to explore opportunities firsthand. And so it really is a great tool for all types of students to start and explore. This is an amazing statistic that we've uncovered, and I'll just highlight 54% of our workforce is retiring in 2037. That is huge. And it means that there is a lot of skilling we need to do, upskilling, start skilling, all of it. And we think that apprenticeships are a critical component in that process, both for students who are currently in high school and for those who are already out of high school and are looking for post-secondary opportunities for their futures. So we know that it is critical for let's see if I can figure out how to go backwards. We know it's critical for employers to get involved and engaged in apprenticeships. And so they are starting to understand that apprenticeships are a way to help address their shortages in staffing and in talent management process. So getting ahead of the curve to compete, aligning with career readiness goals, and the blueprint is really critical. And then, of course, really honing in on their talent management strategies and helping them to understand, are four-year degrees necessary to get started? Are they necessary at all? And what can we do anywhere in between to make sure that we're preparing talent and making sure that they have the skills that are required to work effectively in any environment. There are a lot of acronyms in this apprenticeship ecosystem, and so we are sharing some here. And when we send out the presentation, you'll have this to kind of lean into. But if you listen to any of our conversations, we're going to talk about AMP, which is the Apprenticeship Maryland program. It is the youth apprenticeship program that is being implemented across the school systems in the state of Maryland. An LEA is a local education agency. Those are your school systems. They are called LEAs. The Maryland Apprenticeship and Training Council, along with the CTE committee, are oversight groups for the apprenticeships and for the curriculum. Department of Labor, they are critical to apprenticeships because they register the apprenticeships. They are the oversight division that makes sure that the process is correct and that all the details are there. They do the reporting, and so they're really important. And they have an entire team of navigators to help implement apprenticeships, both youth apprenticeships, AMPs, as well as adult registered apprenticeships. The Maryland State Department of Education, you've already been hearing us talk about on-the-job training, related instruction. That's the curriculum that goes, that is involved in every apprenticeship, as well as there's youth apprenticeship, again, is like an AMP, and school to apprenticeship is a registered apprenticeship that has been approved to start in high school. The great thing is that apprenticeships have evolved beyond what we traditionally think of when we think of apprenticeships. It's always been effective in the construction industry and the trades, but now it has branched out and is being used in virtually every industry. So whether it's a business service, an HR, accounting, finance, or it's healthcare, or it's technology, and all in between. There are so many opportunities to use the apprenticeship model, take advantage of its structure and its opportunities for funding support, and use it to advance talent management and staffing models. So an apprenticeship combines on-the-job training, classroom instruction, and time where your employee is being compensated for the work they are performing. So it is an earn and learn model, meaning they are learning on the job while they are working and earning compensation. So it's paid employment, on the job training, classroom instruction. It's credentializing, so we're making sure that individuals are building their skills that are industry recognized skills and that they're being certified. The duration of an apprenticeship varies depending on the trade and the program that's been designed. And these programs, you can use those programs that are already developed. But if you have an application for an apprenticeship that is not been developed, we can work to create apprenticeships with your unique needs in mind. And of course, as I mentioned, it is diverse in fields, specific jobs, as well as the industries in which they are performed. So there's often an intermediary, which is always very helpful in helping to plan and prepare for apprenticeships, but also implement. And then there is related instruction, that's the curriculum, often provided by the school systems, but also community colleges play a big role in related instruction, and also other third-party certified instructors. And again, all of that gets approved through the Department of Labor. The employer, critical partner in apprenticeships. Without the employer, we are not able to have them. Sponsors, so they are responsible for the apprenticeship to make sure that it is providing the reporting, that it is conforming to the details that were outlined in the apprenticeship documentation and program that was approved, and they play a key role in the success of an apprenticeship. And then on the job training. So this is the employer making sure that they're training the individual on the job. A youth apprenticeship is a very specific apprenticeship. It has a minimum of 450 work hours, and it usually starts in the junior or senior year of high school. Their working hours are their on-the-job training, part of their apprenticeship. Their related instructor, again, is provided by the school system, but may be provided by the community college or an industry provider. And oftentimes we're able to take advantage of dual enrollment so that the individual is also earning college credits. And that is the case for any time a community college is providing the related instruction. We can help to, the individual can earn credits towards their college education. And the professions are intended to be highly skilled in-demand occupations so that the individual is benefiting for a lifetime career. Edna?
Thank you so much, Yvette. I appreciate that. So here you can see we do have a pretty exceptional website. We've been working on it really hard. And I think that, you know, what we're trying to do is to be a resource to the ecosystem and to provide a one-stop shop where employers, apprentices, parents, school systems can go on to learn more. And so our website is macworkforce.org. And the employers page takes an employer from start to finish through the process. We're also continually building a media resource library for people who are interested, just to provide more information. One of the things that's been really great is working with the school systems on the resources they have so that that goes into the Mac Workforce website. We really want to try to simplify it for people, make it accessible to people, and not have to send them to too many places to get an overview, especially because the apprenticeship model is new to quite a few people. Many people might think about construction or manufacturing, and as Yvette pointed out, really the apprenticeship model applies to any industry. Next slide.
Before I go to the next slide, I'll just add that we are actively working on an expansion of the macworkforce.org site so that not just employers, but there's a whole section being added for career seekers as well as educators. And there are toolkits and all types of information. So that will launch before the end of June. And so we'll encourage you to come back again later this month or next month to see all of the information that's provided. We'll have over 100 pages when we launch the final version.
Thank you, Yvette.
Sure.
I think the other thing I wanted to add as well is that there are links to the specific school systems for people that go on the website, so that, again, we're capitalizing on the good work that's already out there and providing a one-stop shop for information. So just keep that in mind. All right, so now that you've heard a little bit about apprenticeship, we really do want to be a conduit to help you expand your impact. Here we have a list of the areas that I had mentioned earlier where you may be working: community development, working with unemployed youth, a lot of skills development. We know that's something that is taking place right around the state. Career exploration is really important. And I know I've talked to a number of organizations that start well before high school, which is great, at the elementary and middle school levels, just to plant that seed. Because, you know, oftentimes if you don't grow up in a certain environment with particular careers, you may not be aware of all the opportunities that lay before you. So career exploration is super important for our young people to understand and learn more about all the great things they can do to contribute to their communities. Again, I mentioned promoting equity and inclusion, and some of you serve specific populations, some of you are more broad, and I know that everything you do is with an equity lens, and that matters. And then, of course, supporting employers and schools. As Yvette so eloquently put it, we can't have apprenticeships without employers. So, you know, we need to build those critical relationships and also be a support to employers through the apprenticeship process. And then again, knowing that there are limited resources, not only with our community organizations, but also with the schools. This is a way to maximize and leverage all the great talent and resources we have. So let's take a moment to do another poll. Now that we're talking a little bit about some of the training and other areas that you're involved in, let's find out what you do. So Stacy, how about if you go ahead and put that up? We have 3 questions this time. So we'd like to know what programs and services you provide, whether you work in the K-12 space, and whether you partner with high schools at this time. So I'll give you a few minutes to go ahead and complete that poll, please. All right. All right, just take one more minute. Thank you, thank you. Okay, great. Taking a look at who's on here in our audience, we see that we have quite a few folks in workforce training, workforce development, and then we have two that are in others. So I would love to know, maybe if you want to put in the chat what services or programs you provide that that would come under the other column. Of course, we couldn't list everything, and we want to make sure that we capture all the great work that's happening out there. And then we have almost evenly split between organizations that work with K-12 youth and those who do not. Again, as Yvette mentioned, registered apprenticeship extends beyond high school, so there is definitely a role in the apprenticeship ecosystem, even if you're not working with K-12 youth at this time. And I talked a little bit about the career exploration piece and some of those preparatory needs that students have. And then finally, we do have pretty heavy participation with high schools, which is great. So we're always looking to build those numbers up and create even more resources for high schools. So thank you for taking the time to take the survey. All right, you can go ahead and pull up the slides. Okay, thank you. All right. So as we mentioned, you're already doing some really amazing things. And what we want to do is to just talk a little bit. So, we want to try to keep this as organic as possible. After we finish the slide presentation, just ask questions and just talk about what you're seeing and experiencing. You're already such an incredible, valuable part of your community. And I know we don't have any faith-based organizations on this particular webinar, but I do want to emphasize that faith-based organizations play a critical role as well. The thing that's common here is that by being woven into the fabric of the community, again, you're very astute as to what the community needs, and you are a part of that community. So you're not only a great resource, but also you're creating relationships and building the infrastructure around social development, quality of life, and well-being. Today, we're talking about apprenticeship, but we know there's a lot that goes into a student being able to be successful. So if a student is suffering or experiencing homelessness or food insecurity, health concerns, either with the young person or parents or others in their community, they're going to need that wraparound support. So whether you're directly training in the workforce area or providing that wraparound support, whether you're doing that directly or providing referrals for people in your community, it really makes a difference, more than you can imagine. So again, some of the great work you're doing is providing those critical resources and also accessing your partner network, to provide support. We talked a little bit about the critical training. Some of you are doing career exposure, again, everything from K to 12, in addition to high schools. A lot of you are involved in career readiness. And so we kind of call those workability skills. I think I have a slide on that in a few minutes. But we're really talking about preparing people for the workplace. So there's a lot of what some may call soft skills to help people develop work ethics, improving communication skills, oral and written communication skills, being able to work in teams, and some of the other components. And even financial literacy, because students are getting paid, apprentices are paid. It is an earn and learn opportunity. So getting those early lessons and how to manage money will go a long way. And then, of course, many of you offer targeted curriculum for in-demand occupations, which is great. And we've seen a couple of those comments in the chats for those of you that are actually providing that applicable related instruction and targeted curriculum. One of the components of apprenticeship is mentorship. And I know that Yvette's slide mentioned, working with the skilled workers. So particularly in the youth apprenticeship program, the students are paired with a mentor. So we have some resources for employers around what mentorship looks like. I know they're working very closely with the career coaches who have now been brought on in the high schools to help, again, be that link and liaison between the high schools and the employers. And so you play a critical role either informally or formally as a mentor, because oftentimes young people will come to you for advice, for guidance, and help. And then again, we want to make sure that we are matching experienced mentors. So if you have a mentorship program, you could be a trainer for a school system to help train mentors that are going to be working in the employment space, in the employer space. So there's all kinds of things that you can really help with. Next slide. So when it comes to outreach and recruitment, we know that the school systems have various processes for students who are accepted to or apply to and accepted to the CTE programs or the youth apprenticeship programs. And sometimes there are students in between who haven't applied, but are definitely eligible to participate in the youth apprenticeship program. So you can help to spread the word with the young people that you work with and know about these opportunities. I think that the onset of the career coaches is going to be very helpful, and some legislation was recently passed in the Maryland legislature around ensuring that high schools are providing career opportunities to students with the same rigor as college options. So I think that we will find that students will be learning more in the coming years about all of the opportunities there that are available to them. So you can definitely help with outreach and recruitment. I have also talked to some community-based organizations that work with students in foster care, and that is going to be important as well because those students are very transient. And going from school to school, you may be the gatekeeper that knows the whole story and can really provide some support, not only to the student, but to the community, but to the high school that student may work in. You can be a great resource to host a webinar, host a workshop, go to a career fair, go to a career day, anything that you can do to help raise awareness about apprenticeships. You can host MAC. We're happy to come and be a presenter. I mentioned one of the folks that's on the webinar today. We recently teamed up to talk to employers about the benefits of apprenticeship. And so, that's a great role that you can play where we're able to speak with your network and help to amplify the word. And absolutely, we need to include parents and guardians in the conversation because they provide a lot of influence and impact on students' decisions. So the more that we can educate them around the benefits of apprenticeship, the more that we'll find students being interested. Next. One of the other pieces that is going to be important is telling our story, right? Not only as a state, but also with our respective organizations. So we really are focused on monitoring the effectiveness of youth apprenticeship programs. The blueprint has that 45% goal, but there's a lot that comes under that. There's a lot that has to happen for that to be realized. And you can be very effective around monitoring, tracking, collecting feedback, both formally and informally, and then sharing that with school systems so that they can use the information to improve their programs and also enhance support services and make sure that the apprenticeship programs are meeting the needs of both people, students, and employers. I also wanted to mention that earlier, well, gosh, it's June now, last month, a report was issued from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that said in the state of Maryland, there are 33 workers available for every 100 jobs. So we know there is a huge workforce gap. And apprenticeship can be a great way to fill that gap. I think one of the other pieces around that, and we've talked about the career preparation and readiness, is that it is a great way for young people to figure out what they want to do, how they want to show up, what their interests are. And the youth apprenticeship program may or may not go on after they complete high school, but they have gotten a taste of what that industry offers. And they may go on to community college or four-year college. They may go into a registered apprenticeship. But the point is that they're able to have the experience in the workplace. At the same time, for employers, as Yvette mentioned, they're going to fill positions anyway, and they have those workplace and workforce gaps that I talked about. So this is a great way to grow talent and to start early and then work on the growth and professional development of an employee. So many of our students do end up getting hired as employees. Next. So there is the slide I was talking about with the workability skills, making sure that there's coursework around that in youth apprenticeships. So for you all, you may offer, I mentioned a couple of pieces around work ethic, communication, and here we have resume writing, that's important. Definitely conducting mock interviews, even if you volunteer at the high school to come in and do them, or do them in your own site. Interview preparation, workplace etiquette, and others. I've also mentioned financial literacy, which I cannot underscore that enough. Just to teach some early good habits to young people, and then of course other life skills. Just getting yourself to work, transportation, how to communicate with your employer in an emergency. There's everything that you can imagine to help them be successful. And also offering those same resources to the employer who may need some support from time to time. Next. So how can you support apprenticeships? I know we have a nice mix of government and nonprofits on this webinar, so we do want to encourage you to get introduced to your county folks, your city folks, the career and college readiness teams, not only in the high schools, also in the community and four-year colleges as well. And I know that you already network quite extensively with each other. We want to encourage you to take the opportunity to meet new partners where you can, to create that umbrella reach for young people, their parents, their communities, and the school systems. So at the bottom here, you see our website information, as well as my email address, the lead for community organizations for MAC, and that covers the entire state. So we work with folks who are working at the very local level in a particular city or county, as well as those who work statewide, regionally, and nationally. So thank you. All right, so I hope that was helpful, and I hope that gave you a nice orientation of how well you are already incorporated into the apprenticeship ecosystem. And let's just take a few moments to hear any questions you have, or if you care to share some experiences you've had that others can learn from.
Thank you for the information. That was very helpful. Gave me answers to a few questions I was having about apprenticeship, so that was really nice. And I wanted to also, how you were talking about the idea of the foster care and continuity, which I hadn't thought about before, but that's very true with students moving around, and under the blueprint having career advisors at the middle schools and the high schools. That connection could be really vital because one could connect from one school to the other. So that was really helpful. But and so if we had, with our organization, we've been talking about possibility of one of the positions that's open, using that and eventually developing it into apprenticeship. And so would you guys be able to help make that happen, as far as helping us design that if we needed that assistance?
Are you saying, yeah, are you saying that within your organization, you want to have an apprenticeship position?
It's something that they're talking about possibility, not
yes,
right away, but
yes.
working in that direction, that there might be a possibility.
Sure. So one of the things that we're exploring is exactly that, is how could we help to create an apprenticeship within the nonprofit world? Because nonprofits are often struggling with talent pipeline management themselves to make sure that they have the next level of, project manager, caseworkers, supervisors, those positions. There's a lot of rotation in the nonprofit world. And if we could help to create more of those great jobs that people, right now you've got kids coming out of school that have big hearts and they want to do big things. And a great way to do that is to encourage them to get into the nonprofit world. And so if we could bring them right into an apprenticeship that gives them those opportunities to learn from the ground up within the organizations, it just makes so much sense. So we are actually putting together a team to investigate what those jobs might be and how that apprenticeship would work. So we would love to add you to that list to get some insights from you about what would be helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a great question. And if you're looking to hire someone specifically to be your coordinator or manager around apprenticeship, we can help you with some of the design of that as well, in terms of the job description and some things to look out for, and maybe even characteristics, expertise that you would be looking for throughout the interview and recruitment process. So we're happy to help in any way we can. Thank you for
All right,
asking.
thank you.
Any, yes.
Ruth, I see your head nodding. What organization are you with?
I am with Classroom to Community, which was formerly the Literacy Council of Montgomery County. And we actually are funded only to work with folks 18 and up, but we have a lot of workforce development and GED prep and entrepreneurship and computer skills and IT fundamentals, like workforce development, but across the board for folks that are 18 and up. And my specific program is the computer skills and IT fundamentals. So I just wanted to because our goal for those students who graduate that, and our Agile, which is project management program, is to figure out how can we get them those skills after they complete the classes. Because now they have the knowledge, but not the skills, and how do they get a foot into the career field that they're looking to get into if they don't have that initial foundation.
Right.
So I'm learning as much as I can this month and next month about apprenticeships and how they work, and how we might be able to connect students after they've completed these different programs with apprenticeships or whatever, what the options are out there.
Right.
I learned a lot today. I appreciate you all sharing how the pieces fit together and the different players in the system and everything.
When we'd be happy to talk to you offline and connect you to some more resources that could act as intermediaries, consultants, support your mission, and also perhaps introduce you to some people within Montgomery County that can help you.
That would be fantastic. And of course, we are a community-based nonprofit as well. So there's always projects that we say, could we maybe have our own apprenticeship and have some students move into that and use new computer skills, helping out the data manager to, or whatever, just opening up some ideas, trying to think outside the box here.
Yeah, so one of the areas that you could think about is playing the role of sponsor, because when there is a sponsor of an apprenticeship, there are some apprenticeships that have already been designed, so we may not have to do that work, but we could take that and have you be the sponsor of a program for that apprenticeship. And once you're a sponsor of that apprenticeship, you can be a sponsor of any apprenticeship, number one. Number two, any employers who may be hesitant because they don't have the bandwidth to manage a sponsorship, but want to be an employer of an apprentice, could fall underneath your sponsorship. So we could work with you to figure out if that's a good model, and perhaps help you to identify other funding and, other ways to support a bigger program that you could kind of lead the charge, but have a bunch of employers underneath you employing the individual.
Like channels, options.
Yes, yes. And then, of course, we could work with the community colleges for ongoing education, as part of the pathways, right? To make sure that whether it's part of the apprenticeship or what can happen post-apprenticeship, those career paths are so critical, both for the employer and the apprentice, to understand that when they're finished with whatever this is, that what is the next thing that they can do, and where are their options, where are the additional interests can align. That's where success comes from.
Absolutely. And that comes up a lot when I'm meeting with the students is, next steps. What's next?
Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Yvette. I also thought about our workforce development boards and the connections that are there as well with respect to employers. So earlier this week, I was on a call just to give an example about that umbrella organization with the Restaurant Association of Maryland. They did a webinar to launch their new apprenticeship program in restaurant management that's going to start in September. So they are the umbrella sponsor, and then employers that are their members will sign on, as Yvette described. And they've streamlined the process for them because they're under the umbrella, and the Restaurant Association of Maryland, or RAM, will manage the monitoring, tracking, and the record keeping, all those other pieces that individual employers may not have the capacity to do. So that does help a lot when you can have that umbrella. Any other comments or questions? All right. Well, we just want to thank you again for your attendance today. You all again are movers and shakers in your communities, and there's several of you that I've had the great fortune and honor to work with and meet. And I just want to say how much you're valued and how much we appreciate what you bring to this conversation, to the workforce space, and to the future of our youth in terms of their own career development. We appreciate everything you do for your communities. Again, you are a tremendous valued resource, and we really want to make sure that community organizations are part of this conversation, because you're part of the infrastructure, you're part of the ecosystem, and you provide a wealth of information, training, and resources that many can benefit from. So please keep us in mind if you need any assistance and support. We are here to help, and we just thank you again for taking the time today. Anything you want to add, Yvette?
No, a great thank you to everyone. We appreciate your time today. We know that everyone has very busy schedules, but this is an important mission, and we're happy to be on the journey with you.
Absolutely. So we'll be sending out a recording of the webinar as well as the PowerPoint slides. And so you can keep an eye out for those. Well, hope you have a great rest of the day. And thanks again for your time. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.